Saturday at 7:30 a.m. for A View from the Outside, hosted by Brereton Horne. A View from the Outside takes a look at key issues affecting St. Vincent and the Grenadines and gives a global perspective on how these issues are viewed. Host Brereton Horne will examine a variety of topics to enlighten, stimulate debate, and explore solutions. Hear the facts, hear the real-life stories, hear A View from the Outside. Join Brereton Horne at 7:30 a.m. every Saturday on NiceRadio for A View from the Outside.
This society need a spectacle. It might help us to see some evil. This society need a spectacle.
On A View from the Outside this week being the 9th of June 2018, we look at tragedy, 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 with the view being that with all of the recent tragedy befalling St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Vincentians need to build strength, keep strong, lend support to one another, especially to the ones who have been directly hit by tragedy, to the ones who directly experience tragedy, so that we help them through their period of difficulty. Tragedy, as we know it, can befall an individual, a group, or an entire nation. The Oxford Dictionary defines tragedy as an event causing great suffering, destruction, and distress, such as a serious accident, crime, or natural catastrophe. And the Cambridge Dictionary says that tragedy is a very sad event or situation, especially one involving death or suffering. Those two definitions tell us that irrespective of the source or cause of a tragedy, suffering is involved, distress is involved, destruction is possibly involved, and death is possibly involved also. It is with that in mind that we, on A View from the Outside, are urging all Vincentians to support one another whenever tragedy befalls. It is important to note that a tragedy can strike anyone. It is also important to note that a tragedy can strike at any time. It can happen on a large scale by affecting a large number of people all at once. For example, it can affect an entire country or an entire region. It can affect a smaller number of people, such as a town or a village or a family or an individual. The recent tragedies resulting in deaths from the drowning at breakers and the young man who's reported to have committed suicide must be devastating for their loved ones. The unbearable anguish and pain caused to the families and loved ones is unimaginable. It is at this difficult time that they need to be supported. It is at this difficult time that they need to be strengthened. It is at this difficult time that as friends and neighbors, as a people, we all need to pause and to think about the anguish and pain of people who suffer such tragedy. And we need to try to ensure, as much as possible, that we help to foster the right environment to help them get through their period of difficulty. If we develop that kind of care and concern when others suffer a personal tragedy or any tragedy, then that will, no doubt, go a long way in helping those who suffer to come to terms with their suffering, while at the same time help us cope with any tragedy which may befall us, or those close to us, or others, or the nation. Our concern for these people who suffer, our concern must be genuine, not contrived, not preying, P-R-E-Y-I-N-G, on someone's vulnerability. Within recent times, the tragedy of increasing crime, increasing murders, increasing rape and sexual assault has been plaguing the entire nation of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Our people have had to develop coping skills. And in that regard, we must all be on guard to support one another. In that regard, we must build strength, and we must share that strength when needed. Many have experienced the devastation of the tragedy of the 2010 and 2013 December floods in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Many would remember that in December 2013, on the eve of Christmas, 8 persons were confirmed dead following the floods on the eve of Christmas, and 5 were reported missing also as a result of those floods which were caused by torrential rain. Many have also seen and experienced the pain and suffering caused by those of the tragedy at Rock Gutter on the 12th of January 2015, when 7 students died, 2 of those whose bodies were never recovered. There are many more tragedies which happen locally, and there are many people who suffer, and as a result of that, we need to be there for them. Many of us will remember also the devastation, the tragedy which was brought to bear by the hurricanes Harvey, Irma, and Maria on the people of the Caribbean islands last year, 2017. Those islands including Dominica, the British Virgin Islands, Puerto Rico, which is further north, and also going even further north, the United States of America. Much devastation was caused and many lives were lost. In Puerto Rico, the actual death toll has been grossly understated, where it is now said to be in excess of 4,000 instead of the less than 100 which has been officially reported. That country is still reeling from the effects of that tragedy. And in Puerto Rico, many areas are still without electricity, and some areas are still cut off from communication. As the hurricane season is now upon us again in the Caribbean, we, on A View from the Outside, encourage everyone, encourage all our Vincentians to be mindful of the precautions to help minimize the effects of any resultant tragedy. It is here that we say Nemo has a role to play. Nemo plays a role, and Nemo's role must be recognized. They must be allowed to play that effective role, and everyone must give them a chance to work for the people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. We, as a people, need to care. We must not ignore the warnings. In fact, we must adhere to them. If those warnings are adhered to, more often than not, any potential destruction will be reduced. Any potential pain could be reduced. Any potential suffering could be reduced also. As we develop and hone these skills to help our fellow men and women, in fact, to help all of our people cope with tragedy, let us take wisdom, as was told by the Dalai Lama when he said, and I quote what the Dalai Lama said, he said, there is a saying in Tibetan, tragedy should be utilized as a source of strength. No matter what sort of difficulties, how painful the experience is, if we lose our hope, that's our real disaster. Unquote. Vincentians, we on A View from the Outside say, let us all not lose hope. In fact, let us be hopeful. And let us all find and garner that strength and share it to help others to cope. Until next week, Randy and all of our listeners, this is Brereton Horne with A View from the Outside, with a reminder to send feedback, as usual, to aviewfromtheoutside@hotmail.com. That's aviewfromtheoutside@hotmail.com. Randy, you and everyone, have a pleasant Saturday, have a wonderful Sunday, and have a tragedy-free and productive week ahead. All the best to you and everyone.
Thank you, Brereton. Thank you, and the family. Have a great one too.
Thank you, Randy.